demand down. And then supply, if you write it out, supply, S-U-P-P-L-Y, supply has the word up in it, so the supply curve goes up. A little trick to help you remember which one is the supply curve and which one is the demand curve. Okay. So, a change in quantity supplied is caused by a change in the price. All right, let's draw our basic supply curve. Price, quantity, and an upward sloping line. This is what your basic supply curve looks like. All right, let's add some prices to our axes here. Let's go $1, $2, $3. Okay, so let's see, we're talking about widgets here. Remember that widget is just a fake product, but we use it as a term to just stand for any good or service. So let's say that the widget was $2. Oh, excuse me, we're forgetting one thing. Let's add some numbers to our quantity line. So 1, 2, 3. All right, let's say that the widget was $2. So at a price of $2, what would the quantity supplied be? You go over, you go down, and on my graph it looks like at a price of $2, the quantity supplied would be 2. All right, well let's pretend then that the price increased to $3 for whatever reason. At a price of $3, the number of producers of widgets would go up to 3. We'd have more people out there willing and able to sell those widgets. Just like in our lemonade example, when the price of lemonade increased, more and more people were willing to go out there and supply that lemonade, to have those lemonade stands. Well, now we see that is called an increase in quantity supplied. So when the price increases, the quantity supplied increases. When the price decreases, the quantity supplied decreases. Now we're going to talk about a change in supply. And remember, economists use very similar terms for very different things. This is a change in quantity supplied. Next, we are going to talk about a change in supply, which means that even at the same price, more or less producers will be willing to supply it. That also means that you get a whole new line. Change in supply means that you get an entirely new line. Okay, so let's first go over what an increase in supply looks like. Increase in supply. What does that look like? All right, so draw out your basic supply curve. You've got your y-axis, your x-axis, price, quantity, supply curve goes up. We're going to label that S1. Increase in supply means that even at the same price, more people will be willing to supply it. Even at the same price, more people will be willing to supply it. And what that looks like, where your S2 is going to go, is to the right. It is a rightward shift. Now, people get mad at this and they say, that looks like it's underneath. How is that an increase? It is not underneath. It is to the right. Then we like to draw a little arrow that shows a rightward shift. And if you're still not convinced, let me tell you, or let me show you something. So let's put in some prices over here, $1, $2, $3. Well, let's pretend that the price of our widgets is $2. And originally, at our S1, at a price of $2, let's see, let's add some numbers in down there as well. 1, 2, 3. At our original price of $2, our S1, it hit at a quantity of 2. So here's our quantity 1. And if that price stayed the same at $2, but the supply increased, even though the price stays the same, look at that. The quantity has now increased from 2 to 3. There's your quantity 2. So that shows an increase in supply. Even though the price stayed the same, more producers would be willing to supply it. Increase in supply. All right, well, let's go over what a decrease in supply looks like then. Let's label it decrease in supply and then draw your basic supply curve. So a decrease in supply would mean that even at the same price, fewer people would be willing and able to supply it. So we've got price, we've got quantity. Let's throw in some numbers. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then here is your basic supply curve. All right. That's your S1. And your S2 is a leftward shift, so it is going to look like this. There is your S2. It is a leftward shift. And here's where people get mad. They get mad and they're like, oh, that's not a leftward shift. That looks like it's on top. It is not on top or on bottom. It is left or right. In this case, it is a leftward shift. And if you still don't believe me, let's look at it more closely. All right, so originally at a price of $2, so we go to our S1, our quantity supplied was 2. Here's your quantity 1, originally. Okay, well then our supply curve shifted or changed, and now at our new supply curve, it's about 1. So our quantity supplied went from 2 to 1. That shows a decrease in supply. Quantity supply decreased. You need to just commit that to memory, that the shifts are right and left. They are not up and down. And if you still can't quite memorize it, you can graph it out and see, okay, that leftward shift in supply shows that decrease because the quantity supplied went down. Okay. Here's some vocab that you need to know. Costs of production, what it costs to make or produce the product.